Well, before watching the film and the documentary, I honestly had no idea of how financial system worked. However, by watching the Big Short and the Inside Job, I was able to learn more about these events that occurred during the economic crisis that began in 2006 and it worsened in 2008, and how heartless the financial system can do to get rich even knowing what it means for the population. An example of this is that mortgage loans were classified as AAA, where it's supposed they were safe when in fact they were not. As well with the first movie, I understood with very simple examples how this system works. I noticed how ruthless and corrupt Wall Street can be to get a profit at the expense of the most vulnerable persons who do not have the necessary information and millions of people who lose their assets and their jobs by the inhuman ambition of others. Also, a very interesting phrase that relates the economy with ethics and citizenship that I saw in the movie is the one mentioned by Ben Rickert, where it emphasizes that Wall Street wraps people in a bubble of ambition, forgetting the ethics of why they are there. On the contrary, Inside Job narrates in a more technical way what caused that crisis in 2008. Something that really caught my attention is the impact that crisis had in countries like Iceland, where they want to continue with these liberalist ideas, and it ended up causing the same effects as in the United States. Also, it is present throughout the interviews between financiers and other academics that they live in a bubble where they make the rules of the game and they cover up each to others to always benefit from the innocence of those groups that do not know too much about the topic. For example, something that is mentioned is that the elite went from a position in a bank to one in the government where it's supposed to be autonomous and impartial in the decisions. Well, after watching both materials, I felt very disappointed and angry at how they work and how corrupt the financial system are as they run the stock markets for their benefit, leaving aside the moral part. I think that the way to begin the change is from the ethical and financial education that is instilled from the time we are children. And finally, regarding the 1994 crisis, and when I asked my father about how it went during that crisis, I could see that it was very similar to the 2008 crisis, where many credits were granted because there was no regulation. Also, in addition to the bad government decisions and financial institutions that made unpayable, causing them to lose their assets. In the case of my family, it did not reach that point of losing any property or assets. However, they did have to pay some debts that were not brand. So, in my opinion, it, the solution it comes from home, from the values that are in ourselves during our life.